Everyone is a star child, made of stardust and the infinite potential of the universe. This extraordinary fearless something in each of us clamors for freedom from the bonds of fear, conformity, and an ordinary life. Welcome to Dr. Durr's Living in the Sweet Spot, where practical tools and solutions from the intersection of mind-body medicine, science, and spiritual well-being awaken and empower you to live out your infinite potential, to live life in the sweet spot. Each and every one of us has faced adversity at some point in our lives. It's just what happens, the good and the not so good. But oftentimes, we kind of get stuck with it because we don't like what happens and it doesn't feel good. But today I'm going to have joining me Dr. Michael Mantell, because we're going to talk about how you grow through, not woe through adversity. Hello there, Dr. Michael Mantell. How are you?
I'm fine, dear Dr. Balin. Durr, how are you? I am so grateful to be a guest on your esteemed show. You have no idea.
Oh, you know what? Thank you so much for saying that. I was really happy about the opportunity to have the conversation with you as well. It's always to me one of those things that I feel deep gratitude for when I meet someone and we have such what I think we both call a soul connection.
I just was saying earlier, I came home from our conversation on the phone a couple of weeks ago. I said to my wife, Paula, I have a soul connection with this woman. And we both said the same thing just 5 minutes ago. It's incredible. There's something special about this. And I hope that the audience will join and embrace that with us.
Well, you know what? I'm going to share in that sentiment. So, you know what? So for those folks who may not, again, have had the privilege or the pleasure, let me tell them something about you, Dr. Michael Mantell, my most esteemed guest and colleague. Dr. Michael Mantell is a renowned behavior science expert dedicated to helping people overcome debilitating emotions such as anxiety, stress, depression, and burnout for nearly 50 years. As a gifted speaker, therapist, coach, writer, supervisor, and media personality, he reminds people that they create their own emotional destinies while encouraging his clients towards a greater acceptance of themselves, others, and life itself. Dr. Mantell has held various prestigious positions, including chief psychologist for the Children's Hospital of San Diego, chief psychologist of the San Diego Police Department, and assistant clinical professor in the Department of Psychiatry at UCSD Medical School, which is University of California, San Diego. Dr. Mantell is a prolific author with 4 books to his name, including his recent work, The Link is What You Think, which we're going to talk about today. Ticking Bombs, Diffusing Violence in the Workplace, and his iconic 1988 original, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, P.S. is all small stuff, and its 25th anniversary edition. He's brought psychology to the broadcast media for decades, including regular appearances on Good Morning America, 4 appearances on The Oprah Winfrey Show, and weekly spots on local and national news. He is the co-host currently of the visual podcast, 360 Degrees of Health. So again, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that very kind introduction. You make me sound like I really know my stuff.
Well, you know what? After 50 years, I'm sure you know, you probably know your stuff, my stuff, and some other folks' stuff.
Well, most of my clients think so. Some not so sure, but I think my wife would agree most of the time.
So Dr. Michael Mantell, you know what? So your book, the link is what you think is I think very much connected to what we're talking about today. And one of the things that I think I thought of when you said, in terms of what we're going to talk about today, how to grow through, not woe through adversity, is I remember being in residency, and a dear, she became like a mother-like figure to me, Dr. Faye Gary. She was a nursing professor. Her specialty was child and adolescent psychiatry. I was a psychiatry resident. That's how we met. And I was also a single parent. And the thing that, it was really a struggle for me. And I was just trying to, get through it. And I go to her and I tell her stuff that was going on. And at some point she would say to me, "This too shall pass." Oh. And I'm like thinking to myself, it ain't passing fast enough.
It should pass faster.
Right. I'm just, it's, in between doing general psychiatry, then plus child and adolescent psychiatry fellowship, it's 5 years. And I also started off doing pediatrics for almost a year. So I'm just wanting to get done. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I really wish I had understood what she was saying about not only will this too shall pass, but because I was so focused on trying to get to the destination, that there was a lot I was missing out on the journey, right? And how to deal with the journey. Mm-hmm. So yeah, share with us what you think about that.
Well, first of all, I like the term journey. The New York Times just the other day had an article about how we're overusing the word journey. It's become a hip, trendy term, journey. Everything is a journey. I had a journey with Dr. Durr today. But aside from that, I'll tell you, when I was a young little boy, my mother, rest in peace, used to say to me, "This will pass. This too will pass." You're talking it into yourself. You're making yourself crazy. And I thought to myself, what is he talking about? Well, years later, when I started studying with Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, rational emotive behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, I realized my mother, years and years and years before all that, knew something about the idea of the link is what you think. Michael, tell yourself this isn't going to pass. It's going to be fine. Tell yourself you're just talking it into yourself. And so, yeah, I was very, very well educated very early on in some of these very important concepts. I think that there's so many things that we miss along the way because we're focused on something we think is the important goal as opposed to enjoying ourselves along the way. Passion is very important. The goal, very important. But enjoying the journey along the way probably is even more important. So,
what I was thinking when you were saying that, okay, so I could tell. So you had that good Jewish mom.
You did. Thank God I did.
Yeah.
And dad too, and grandparents and all the rest. Yes, we did.
Yes. Yeah. And so without realizing, she's doing some form of cognitive behavioral therapy. Right.
Yeah.
But of course, wisdom is something that's never restricted to certain people, nor a certain age, right? Nor a certain gender. So so I think that's awesome. Were you able? So at what point did you make the connection to what she was saying to you? And in terms of your own work, or is that what inspired you to do the work that you're doing in terms of how we think about adversity?
I think in some ways, probably deeply. I started off as an undergraduate as a pre-dental major. And then one day I had to go into the lab and actually dissect like a frog or something. And I got so sick to my stomach and the sight of blood. And I said, this is not for me. Mm-hmm. I was in a psychology 101 class, about 150 people in this lecture hall.
Yeah.
And Dr. Leon Teft, he was a professor. And one day he called up, he said, you up there in the red sweater, you. I'm looking around like, I don't know. But I was not a student. I mean, my 8th grade teacher told my parents that I was not college material. And my mother said, don't listen to her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You're going to college. In any case, I'm sitting in this lecture. Oh my gosh, he's talking to me. What do I do now? I'm going to get kicked out of this club. He said, come for a walk. What are you majoring in? I said, I'm a pre-dental major. Mm-hmm. He said, I can see that's not you. Yeah. You're the only one in this class, the only one that is alive. There's 150 kids here, but you're the only one paying attention. We walked around this big lake, and by the time I got finished, I became a psychology major. But, you mentioned wisdom. Mm-hmm. We have so many entry points, and the problem is that we think only ours is right. That's crazy. Mine is not the only way. There's many entry points. Research has shown at least 9 that I jotted down that I can think of that are great entry points to help us master our inner world and thrive. So we have self-awareness practice. We have the importance of setting purpose and intention. Mindfulness. Everybody focuses on mindfulness. Gratitude is medicine. Emotional mastery. Kindness and compassion. Holistic well-being. Community. Living with intention. Of all those, kindness and compassion, we sure need more of. The rest, they're important. But there are many ways to live a better life. I think standing on a bedrock of being inclusive and kind and compassionate is the best foundation, whichever your path, spiritual, religious, whatever it is.
Okay. So Dr. Michael, can we tell the truth here?
Let's hope.
Okay. So I think that what you said is spot on. And I also think that one of the main reasons that people have difficulty treating others with kindness and compassion is because they don't treat themselves with kindness and compassion. And so, how are you going to treat somebody else with kindness and compassion when you don't even really do that for yourself?
Self-acceptance is where it starts. Now, what does that mean? I'm a psychopath. If I accept myself, that's okay? No. We don't accept things that are not good, that are bad, but we don't rate ourselves based on what we do. What I was going to say was that, so if I get an F on a math test, which I often did, it doesn't mean I am a failure. It just means I failed a math test. And you just alluded to something so important, Dr. Durr, that the way we talk to ourselves about ourselves determines so much of everything else. If I believe I must be perfect, I should be better than I am, you must treat me right, life must be easy, boy, then I'm going to think if it's not, it's horrible and terrible and awful. And then I'm going to tell myself, I can't stand this. Listen to how I just worked myself up. That's not healthy.
Agreed. So one of the things is that I'd say to people is failure is a result. It's never a person.
Oh, love that. We do. And people who demand that they succeed, whatever that means to them, they're setting themselves up for real failure and real sorrow and disturbance and upset and anger and all the rest, because it doesn't always work out. There's a great song by Amy Scruggs. I'm giving her a little bit of a plug, but that's okay. It's called What If It All Goes Right? And
yes.
You've heard that from J.C. Cooley.
Yeah.
What if it all goes right?
Dr. James J.C. Cooley on his show. You and I is the show, of course, that you co-host, the 360 Degrees of Health. I love that song.
Great song. What if it all goes right?
Yes.
And so, as with you, when we talk about growing through, not woeing through adversity, maybe there really isn't adversity the way we think about it. Maybe these are opportunities for us to grow. And maybe we need, well, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a needle point here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you see the backside, and I put the needle in, I pull through, and I put it, and here there's gray, and there's yellow and orange, and what is that, Michael? What is that, Dr. Mantell? Wait, I'm doing my needle point, and you see all this weird shapes and ugly threads hanging. Finally, boy, he's making an ugly thing. Wait, maybe I'm not. Maybe it'll all work out. No, it's definitely ugly. You shouldn't be doing that. Finally, I invite you to my side. Dr. Bowen, come on over here. And you look over here, and I show you what's on this side.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh my goodness, that is beautiful. I only saw this side.
Mm-hmm.
The trouble with our life and the way we think is so many of our clients only rigidly and inflexibly think in a certain way. And because of that, they don't see the possibility of when you pull the curtain back, maybe the needle point is beautiful. So be careful what you think.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things, though, that a person has to be willing to do is the way I think I tell myself is I don't know everything.
Right.
And since I don't know everything, that means I'm not necessarily aware of everything in terms of all of what it is, right? So it's, for instance, when I'm looking at you right now, you know, maybe I can see only 20% of you, right? But so from my perspective, because I can only see 20% of you, you know, you're an amputee and you got no arms, no legs.
Well, you don't see my gym shorts right now.
But I'm just saying, but that's just my perspective, and it's not the truth, right? I'm only seeing a portion of you, and I don't see all of it. But the difficulty with that is then, based upon my perspective, I'm making judgments and opinions, and then, which is, of course, creating my feelings and the actions that I'll take, and it's not even the truth.
How many of us, well, I live by a phrase, I think I shared with you when we spoke, look beyond the outside to that which lies within.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always see that. Think about what someone can become. Think about what someone can become instead of what they've been.
Yes.
And I remember sharing that with Oprah one day. I'll tell you that story a little later, perhaps. But you're right. We only see a little piece of everyone, and we make these crazy judgments based on that. But when you realize that you have a thinking style,
mm-hmm.
whether it's to catastrophize the negative, or magnify the negative, or personalize everything. A student said to me, a professor walked by me and didn't smile. I think I failed the test. Maybe the professor had indigestion.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be willing, like you say, to say, maybe I don't know everything. It doesn't mean I'm stupid or I've got a problem. Maybe I'm just human.
Yeah, I just don't know everything. Nobody does, and that's okay, right?
There's only the one above, if you believe that, as I do.
The one within.
The one within.
The one that is within. The one that is around us. The one that is omnipresent, present everywhere, all of the time.
That's it, and we have to. I don't think we have to. I think those of us who believe that do better in life than those who don't. I'm giving a talk to a hematology group in Switzerland later in actually beginning of June, and I'm calling it.
Later.
I'm not going. I'm doing it on Zoom, unfortunately. It would be cool if I was going, but I call it Brave Through Burnout. Brave through burnout. And it touches on this very thing that you're talking about. The idea of having a flexible thinking style. I don't know everything. So B stands for believing, checking your beliefs, cultivating a belief in yourself and the spirits in you and around you to help you achieve your goals. R stands for reframing your thinking. Maybe the things you think are bad aren't so bad. Maybe they're not horrible. Maybe they're just bad. BRA, appreciate. Let's appreciate the fact that maybe I don't know everything about Michael right now. Maybe the judgments I'm making about Dr. Durr are not fully in line with who Dr. Ballinger really is. V, one of my favorites, vitamin V. Visualize in order to revitalize. Imagine seeing beyond the outside of this person. And then E, the encouragement elixir. Spread and surround yourself with positivity. Think about the fact that maybe I'm looking at this in the worst possible way. And when we go through that, we sure look at life differently and have a very different experience. The power of what if it all works out? What if it all goes right?
So I love that, right? Again, what if it all works out? And for you and I, as who think of ourselves as spiritual beings and think of in that it's, what's happening is happening for us,
right?
Because it's an opportunity for us to grow and I think develop some tools and skills that we're going to need on the journey in terms of where we're going, and we don't even know we're going to need them yet. So I want to get into what's the difference between, the irrational thoughts versus the rational. Like I said, the irrational, I call it squirrel madness. But let's take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into that. Okay.
Great.
Heaven abounds in you, enlightens, uplifts, inspires, and invites you to live a life that's engaged, joyous, and limitless, the sweet spot of life. Take this journey in oneness. We are and have all that God, the infinite creative source of the universe, is. You are infinite potentiality, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. Heaven abounds in you. I'm your host, Dr. Ballin A. Durr, and joining me today is Dr. Michael Mantell, and we are having a conversation about how to grow through, not woe through, adversity. And so before the break, we said we were going to talk about the difference between irrational thinking and rational thinking. Like I said, irrational thinking, I call it squirrel madness. So between the squirrel madness and the rational thinking, what's the difference between those?
Well, so let's back up a little bit and talk about the frame around this.
Okay.
Our thoughts, not events, create our emotions. That's the approach that rational emotive behavior therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, have taught us since the 1950s. And the key is we tend to blame events. Boy, that traffic made me angry. This person made me so upset. That situation really got me nervous. No, no, no. I make myself worried, nervous, sad, annoyed, irritated, frustrated, angry, whatever it might be. I do that. How? By the way I think. The link is what you think. So when we say, boy, I got so angry, no, I didn't get angry. I made myself angry. We are born and reared to think rationally and irrationally. And unless we have an awareness of the difference that you're asking about, which I'll define in a moment, unless we have an awareness, we don't have choice. But I do believe that we have choice. So if I do the following, let's hear your answer. Ready?
Go.
Bump, bada, bump, bump.
Bump, bump.
Right. Now you just automatically did bump, bump.
Uh-huh.
So the space between bump, bada, bump, bump, stop. Bump, bump, that space is your power. You can think about your thinking. You can choose whatever response you want. That's your power. That's what Viktor Frankl talked about. The space between the stimulus and the response is where your power is. And so we have two approaches. Rational thinking.
So what you're saying, because I think in a very unconscious way, people don't realize that they have the power to choose, and that their power actually comes from their power to choose in terms of for themselves, as opposed to trying to control people and events, and circumstances, and also to your point, when it comes to people saying to me, you made me feel, and I say to them, can I make you be an astronaut?
Right.
Because I can't make you be an astronaut, then I can't make you feel anything. You're like, it's, again, to your point, you're feeling what you feel based upon what you think about what I said or did.
Right.
And so we're all powerful instead of thinking we're powerless, because we have the power to choose.
Absolutely. And some people choose the rational approach and some people choose irrational. Let me define that real quickly for you. So rational thinking creates appropriate and healthy feelings, emotions, and behaviors. So if you're thinking in a healthy way and acting in an appropriate way, that's coming from a rational thought. It includes preferences, not demands. It is flexible.
So can you
yeah. So for example,
a bit more, preferences versus demands.
Okay. So I must have a better car than I have. I should have this. You should treat me differently. My life must be easy. As a client of mine said to me earlier today, her brother is ill. He shouldn't be ill. I shouldn't have to put up with all this. That's rigid, inflexible, demanding thinking. That's irrational because it leads to unhealthy feelings. Preference is flexible. I wish it worked out differently. I'm buying a lottery ticket. Boy, I would hope I win. But can you imagine buying a lottery ticket and saying, I must win? Right. Oh, my goodness. That's crazy thinking.
Right.
So rational thinking encourages a healthy perspective. Mm-hmm. It prescribes high frustration tolerance. I can tolerate this. I don't like it. It is unconditional, meaning whether it works out this way or this way, it'll be okay. I'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And it is non-damning, because if I think you must treat me well and mm-hmm. you don't, I think that's terrible, then I think you're a horrible, terrible person. It also rates behaviors, like you were saying earlier, not the self. And rational thinking removes the tyranny of shoulds and musts. So we're going to keep it clean. But my professor Albert Ellis used to say, should-hood leads to hood. You fill in the blank.
So you know what I would say to people when they do a lot of I should or you should.
Don't should on me.
I tell them, do not should upon yourself.
Right. Don't should on me. Now, irrational thinking is very different, because irrational thinking creates unhealthy emotions, anger, depression, anxiety, rage, and self-defeating behaviors. It's very dogmatic. It includes awfulizing, catastrophizing, terribilizing, and it creates very low frustration tolerance. I can't stand this. Irrational thinking rates the value, the worth of other people. Who am I to say that guy is no good? So we have these beliefs, and they get us into more trouble than anything else. And the best therapeutic programming teaches people to identify these thoughts. There's a difference between rational and irrational. We don't want to just waffle on about what we think is wrong in this world.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, and you also mentioned it earlier, so I was just jotting myself a little note to remind me that Lee Daniels, the director of the Butler, after it was released, this was January of 2017. I was watching him. He was on CBS Morning Show. And the interviewer asked him, how did he feel about the fact that The Butler wasn't nominated for an Academy Award? And his response was, if you're doing this work for the award, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. He's like, nobody owes you nothing. And
right.
I was like, wait a minute, hold up, Lee. They owe you some dignity and respect, right?
Be nice.
Right. I said, but you know what? I'm going to have to give this some thought as to, what that means. But he also went on to say that he said, because I don't do this work for the awards. He said, and I'm going to get mine. And I was like, ooh, I said, there are probably some folks with some issues about what he has to say. I said, however, again, let me think about what he's saying. And so over time, I was really able to understand, actually, and I only arrived at this really recently, this level, which is, if I put myself in the mindset that nobody owes me anything, really what that's saying, again, is you and I as spiritual beings, but really what that's saying is that I stop treating people as the source, as my source of my goodness and my well-being and my happiness and my health and my healing, because they don't have to do anything. They don't, even if I think they owe me, they could just say, I don't want to. So if I stop treating people as my source, then what does that mean? Then I stop creating false idols.
Right.
And I stop idol worshiping, right? Because then the source of everything is within me, and that source is available to me at all times. And then I stop working myself up, right? Getting myself unhappy and resentful and PO'd and any of those things that I'm doing to myself by saying you should. I also think of it like this, especially when it comes to the childhood stuff, that's like being a collection agency trying to collect upon an old debt.
Old debts, right.
Right.
Watering dead plants.
Yes.
Praying for a better yesterday.
That you cannot undo.
No. And you said it earlier, this reflects the fact that the power for your well-being is in your mind, between your ears, behind your eyes. It's in your hand. It's in your heart. It's in your heart. It's not what they're doing. Sure, what they're doing isn't good. It's not right. It isn't nice. It isn't proper. It isn't helping the world. But I don't have to suffer because of that. And we see so much of that. And, I think that we could do so much better by checking that space between the stimulus, what someone does or what happens out there, and how we're going to respond to it. Bump, bada bump, bump. Wait a minute. How do I want to respond? I don't have to say bump, bump.
Right.
That's
I can just dance and stay it.
There you go. Exactly.
All right. So you know what? Let's go ahead and take a break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, I also want to kind of get into some of your experiences, because I'm sure you've had adversity like all of us have had adversity. And so I'm, just curious about, your experiences that helped you arrive at this level of wisdom and understanding, other than your wise, good Jewish mama.
We'll give her the credit.
Okay. Dr. Valen A. Durr here with my guest, Dr. Michael Mantell. And again, we are talking about how you grow through, not woe through, adversity. So again, I'm wondering about, is there a personal experience that really, I think, was, to help you shift into understanding that, this approach that you developed?
Yeah, look, I mean, no one is exempt. That's the first thing. Nobody on this planet is exempt. Not just our clients that we deal with every day, friends, our family, and neighbors, the world. Look at the world. We see adversity wherever we look. I have she went to prison. I had a secretary who embezzled $1 million from me.
Wow.
My book, 1988, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. P.S. It's all small stuff. Someone in 1994 came out with a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. That didn't feel very good. I can remember being a kid and not being picked for the team, being called pizza face because I had pimples all over the list goes on and on and on. So I'll tell you, though, two examples that come to mind. Two examples that do come to mind.
Okay.
My father, I was raised in Newark, New Jersey, and beautiful community, loved it like no other. Still to this day, it's a comparison in my mind and my heart. And so my father had shoe stores in Newark, and this was back in the tough days of the riots in Newark, New Jersey. And I remember that one of his stores on Clinton Avenue in Newark, the riots were coming down the street. And they were pointing, take that one down, take that one down. Don't leave that leave Mantell's shoes alone. What happened? Well, the story was this. My father was not in the shoe business necessarily to make money. We were middle class. He was in business to take care of people in the community. And the first store, Ella Fitzgerald used to buy shoes there, and many, many people on Prince Street in Newark. Many people used to come in, didn't have the money. The sneakers were $1.99. Take them, pay me later. And he used to send me upstairs to collect rent. Like, he used to call me Boytel, not Mantel. Someone didn't have the rent. I don't have the rent, and I was scared. I don't know what to do. Well, you tell your father I don't have it. That's okay. We'll get it. Don't worry about it. And that's the way I learned how to deal with people. Take care of people. Understand what's beneath the needs of people. And look beyond the outside. These are good people. They don't have the money to buy a pair of shoes, but they need shoes.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? Tell them no? That's healthy thinking, I believe. And that's the idea of understanding there's a bigger purpose in this world. Kindness, compassion, empathy. People are different. I shared a story with you. I'll share it again regarding my friend Oprah Winfrey. And there she is.
She is back there on the shelf.
But she is. She's there, right there next to my great diplomas. Learning from her is like an education. I was on a show once to talk about race in America. And someone in the audience, remember how she said, Dr. Mantell, I'm colorblind. I don't see differences. You don't see differences? And I was a young guy, and I had a lot of courage, I guess. I don't know what. And I said, Oprah, could you come over here? And she said, now? I'm up here. I said, yeah, just come on down here. She said, okay, we're on live television. I said, I know. I said, now, I was sitting up there on this stool, and she came up to on the stage. I said, now, Oprah, could you put your cheek next to mine? And she said, wait a minute. I said, no, it's okay. We're on live television. She said, really? I said, just put your cheek next to mine. And she did. And there I was, cheek to cheek with Oprah. And I said to the woman in the audience, you don't see a difference? You're colorblind? You don't see a difference? You're looking at the outside. I want you to look deep within. And Oprah leaned over and gave me a kiss. And she said, you gave me a good idea for a book about blessings. So I think the key is have an open mind. Be willing to take the risk. Be willing to say something that stands out and be different. Be courageous. Have that soul that says there's a bigger purpose than just getting them to like me or not to cancel me or whatever it may be. There's a lot more out there that we can do.
So how long did you wait before you washed that cheek?
Well, I think I may wash it later on today. Oh my goodness.
Well, I think I think the other thing too that what you're saying to me speaks to, and of course I just love that story about your dad, because it really is about saying that my higher purpose is one of service. And of course, I think ultimately that's where Oprah comes from also. It's a place of service. And what I know to be true is when that is largely my intention, even when things kind of don't go the way I would like or whatever, or there is a challenge or adversity, that the abundance of the universe is going to return to me what I put out in the universe. People call it the law of attraction, but I call it the law of reaping and sowing. Meaning if I plant apple seeds, I'm going to get apples, right? If I plant weeds, I'm going to get weeds. But I think, those are both wonderful stories that you shared. And the other thing too, as you were speaking though, I also thought about something you talked about earlier and I wanted to go back to, which was, I think people may misunderstand what the word acceptance means.
Right.
Right. And so again, I talked about being in residency. Now, clearly I chose to be there. They chose to have me there. That being said, the challenges of, the first year when I did pediatrics, I'm on call every fourth night, working, I'm a single parent with a young child, working 80 hours a week, working 32 hours on 3 hours of sleep. It's a challenging time, right? But so when you say acceptance, what does the acceptance really mean, so that again we see it as an opportunity for growth, instead of going, woe is me, this is so bad, this is terrible, this is awful, why is this happening to me, I can't believe it's happening, whatever it is that we're that we're telling ourselves.
Right. Right. So I will tell you this. That's a great question. I appreciate your asking. Acceptance, many people believe, means I like it, I accept it, and therefore it's okay. But no, it's not. I just got a call in the middle of this discussion, and I accept the fact that a call can come through on my watch or my phone, and I don't like it, but I accept that it just happened. I mean, I accept that there are conditions in this world for things to happen that I don't like. I never confuse acceptance necessarily with liking. And I think we have to keep that difference in mind. The more I accept illness or job issues or relationship issues or world events or conflicts of one kind or another, I accept these things can happen. I'm better able to respond. But if I don't accept it, I'm like in some kind of fantasy land. What do you mean you don't accept it? It just happened. You don't accept that happened. Accept it. You don't have to like it. That's the key.
Yeah. So I really like that kind of simple way that you kind of tease that out. And for me, the way I think of acceptance again is like you said, I would say it's just not approval, but I like your way of saying I don't like it. So yeah, you like it, don't like it. But to me, the real difficulty with not accepting something means you were resisting it. So if I'm resisting something, then I'm caught up in the problem and I'm not focused on problem solving. So that's to me is also one of the consequences of being resisting what it is, saying it shouldn't be this way. Well, but it is. If you have a flat tire, you can say, I wish I didn't have a flat tire, or, it's a terrible time to have a flat tire. Whatever it is you want to say about it, it doesn't change the fact that you have a flat tire. So rather than getting caught up in that, the acceptance is it is flat. Now, what do I want to do with it? So I'm focused on working the problem, finding the solution, instead of it's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem. So you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say, you just said it beautifully.
Oh,
yeah, of course. And, when we help our clients deal with this issue in this way, at first they don't get it because they think we're saying they have to approve of everything. But no, it's not approval. It's just recognizing that something that you may not like happened.
So I think then, the big question becomes, how do we cultivate a mindset that is accepting of whatever the reality is at the moment, and see this in a way such that what's the growth opportunity for me in this, and maintaining that mindset, which then allows me to again grow through the adversity instead of woeing and getting lost and stuck in the adversity. How do we cultivate that kind of mindset?
Well, I think mindfulness is a critically important thing. what we used to be told, pay attention, became awareness and became mindfulness and all the rest. I think that mindfulness allows us to have the power to have emotional regulation, to be able to control the way we want to respond, as opposed to the way we think that's controlling us. And so I think there are times when you reframe your perspective about something. Okay, it's not something I really like. I get that. But I also recognize that it happened. And if I change my perspective, my interpretation, I understand that shapes how I perceive and how I experience adversity. And so I think those are a couple of things. I can go on and on and on and give you a whole long list of things, but I think that idea of reframing is critically important. Acceptance,
And for those folks who may not really understand what mindfulness is, just something really quickly to define that.
Well, it's actually it's acceptance and non-judgment. Mindfulness means I don't judge it.
And is there one thing that you also can do in order to see it as a growth opportunity, the adversity?
So resilience comes to mind there. A growth opportunity means that I step back and I don't ask why this happened. I ask how or what. Let me explain. How can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? When people want to grow, when people want to expand, when people want to thrive from an adverse experience, if they spend a lot of time, why is this happening? Why are you doing this to me? Why did this happen? They'll never have an answer. There is no answer as to why. Why is this happening is a two-part question. The first part is why. Philosophers have been asking that for centuries and centuries. Why? There's no answer to why. The second part, is this happening? Oh, yeah, it's happening. Let's move on now. But I think that the idea of asking how and what, how can I grow from this? What can I learn as a result of this? How and what?
Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith would call your last two questions empowering questions.
Yes.
And the why is this happening to me a disempowering question.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly right. He said it better than I did.
Yeah. So, okay. So just real quickly, how can people get your book and how can they get in touch with you?
The book is available on Amazon, as are all books.
The link is what
the link is what you think.
Yes.
And there I am on the cover of that book, and you'll recognize it. It's a basic, what do I want to say? A collection of my 365 days. Every day on Facebook and LinkedIn, I put up Mantell points to ponder, here to help. 5 points every day. Sometimes I take one day off, but usually every day. And they're all there. So you get a page a day of wisdom that I've collected over many, many, many years. And I share them still to this day. You can get the book at Amazon. The link is what you think. And you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and X and whatever the other things are called these days. I'm there. If people want to write to me, I take emails from everybody. My email address is doctor, no period, just DRMANTELL at me.com. DRMANTELL at me.com. I'll answer you. I like to be the coach in people's pockets. So between sessions, people say, hey, Dr. Mick, could I get a quick question? Yeah, sure. What is it? No charge.
Yeah, and I've seen your points to ponder. I'm kind of going, ooh, if folks really like peel the layers back, these are really wonderful. This will take you very far.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
You're more than welcome, and thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. Again, I'm grateful, appreciative. And of course, you've been such a wonderful guest. And I hope you will join me again sometime.
I would be honored, Dr. Jur. You have no idea what a gift you are to this world, to your patients, to your family, to your friends, to all of those who look up to you. When I first met you, we had an instant connection, and it's still there and it's growing. So I would love to come back, of course.
Oh, thank you so much, very much. And I feel the same way about you as well. Like I said, you are a wonderful blessing to those who have the heart and the mind and the ears to hear and receive your 50 plus years of wisdom and knowledge. So I would encourage everyone to get a copy of his book. The link is what you think. I'm Dr. Balin A. Durr, awakening and empowering you to live out your infinite potential, to live life in the sweet spot. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us today in the sweet spot. Share, follow, and like us on social media. To learn more, please visit balinadurmd.com, spelled BALINADURRMD.com. Join us next week, and remember, when you heal your mind, all things are possible.